Welcome to the second part of Paul Boross's fantastic podcast. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's an absolutely cracking podcast end for you.
Could you give me some advice, or the listeners to advice, if they're a little bit self-conscious, but they do want to have a better presentation in work? They want to just get on better, because they're holding themselves back. They're the first person to bitch about the other person getting promoted because they're not putting themselves forward. They're in their comfort zone where they can say, I could have done this, or their bar stool wisdom where they're sitting there with a case of, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the smarts, didn't have that, the story. What kind of advice would you offer to them?
Well, I think Tony Robbins talks about the coulda, woulda, shoulda people who, but it goes back to your attitude. I mean, that American phrase that I used earlier, your attitude dictates your altitude, i.e. how high are you going to get? But if your attitude is, why does it always happen to me? My life is so crappy and that guy, he got a promotion over me when I should have got. Well, actually, the first thing you've got to look at is yourself. Yes. And also what you are giving, the messages you are giving to yourself and the messages that you give to other people. I have this phrase, that I use when I do lots of keynotes all over the world and conferences. And I always talk about, I always walk into any room assuming everybody is lovely.
Love it. Brilliant advice. I shared it this week, actually. Great advice.
Yeah, but because what's the alternative? I mean, because you're walking in and somebody has told you and everything. I've been talking, to somebody and they've said, oh, you're going to be interviewed by Mark. He's really tough and he's like really, he's going to, make mincemeat of you, all of that. So then they want me to walk in going, oh, okay, and be defensive about the whole thing. No, I walk in everywhere going, everybody's lovely, because the alternative is that you think everybody is horrible. I was doing this keynote lecture in Germany, and a man put his hands up, and a German man, and he went, excuse my German accent, but he went, this is not true. And I went, it's a concept. You know what? It's and everything. No, it's not true. He goes, 5% of people everywhere horrible. I go, it's a concept, it's an attitude, it's the way you go and agree with that. He goes, and so we have this back and forth, and we done. And at the end of it, he says to me, okay, I go with you most of the way. I said, what do you mean? He goes, now I will walk into a room and presume that 99% of people are lovely. And I go, no, you haven't got it.
You're losing it.
And so I said, if you go in with that attitude and there are 100 people in the audience, your unconscious brain will be going, where's the bastard?
Yeah, because if it's all about living that congruent life where you're like 100% in, commit, and then you're there with it. So start with the attentions that everyone's good. What would the second piece of advice be?
Okay, I mean, it's, again, we go back to whatever you say to yourself becomes your reality. Really, your reality, if you start with, I hate this, I hate pitching and presenting. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to actually mold your brain and in your mind into that. And what happens with people, and you were saying people who bitch and moan and everything, they're not only bitching and moaning about other people, they're bitching and moaning about themselves. Yeah. And they're reinforcing that to try and make themselves feel better. Go down the pub and going, oh, I tell you what happened to me. Oh, I did all that work. Well, the other one got the thing, and they bitch and they moan. Who wants to be around bitchers and moaners?
And exactly. And the thing I've always learned from that, you're spot on, is if they'll say it about other people, they'll say it about you, and you're probably thinking that. And I said, remember, if anyone bitches to you, they're probably bitching about you to somebody else.
Of course.
And usually their view of the world is a reflection on them.
Well, and you are 100% right, Mark. And also remember that who you surround yourself with, and this is an important point, is crucial. Because if you are surrounding yourself with negative people, you have to behave, or you get pushed into behaving in that way, because you get reinforcements. Yeah, he's a real bugger. I don't like him either. He's a git. I don't like him. So now what are we doing? We're just, I love being around positive people.
And you probably see that with the School of Hard Knocks, with people like Anthony, where they're probably being reinforced with that negative type of people around them, because obviously they're unemployed, they got challenges, and you see that probably more than most. And then you probably see the top scale with the 100 Google leaders all surrounding themselves in this think tank of exceptional people. So you see that both sides of the coin.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it's very interesting on School of Hard Knocks that these are very often very capable people, except nobody is capable if they walk around going, well, nobody would employ me, or I'm really crap, and I've sent off 100 CVs and nobody's even given me an interview. And anyway, it's confidence. You asked the question, what would I advise? As a psychologist, I get people saying to me all the time, can you teach confidence? And I go, of course you can.
Of course you can, defo.
It's because confidence comes from an attitude. It also comes from who you surround yourself with, what you say to yourself. All these things add up to being. So, by the way, most of the people watching this podcast are very, very, very lucky. And some of them are going to be going, oh, I'm not that lucky. You know, I'm on the dole, or I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Look at the world. Most people who can watch a podcast are already lucky. 100%. They've got access to Wi-Fi, a computer, those kind of things. So already, my father, who died last year, was a Hungarian refugee. He was a man who at 17 got put into the Second World War. Wow. 17. My 17. Son's 16 now, and I think, what would that be like? In 1945, he went in with the Russians, the Allies, to Berlin. He was then put in a holding prisoner of war camp while they sorted out who was friend and who was foe. And so 6 months in there, then he escaped from Hungary in the uprising in 56. But my father went round, having been in wars, having been in refugee camps, having gone to new countries, having been separated by his children, by governments, saying, I am lucky.
Yeah, he's right.
Because lucky is an attitude.
100%. Back this up. A wise man said this to me. Ask a person, do you count yourself as lucky, and how would you score yourself out of 10 for being lucky? If you get 8, 9 and 10, keep hanging out with them, still work with them. If you get anything lower, stay the F away from them, because that sums them up. So you're right about that. Absolutely.
It is. I mean, look around. I mean, actually, very, very interesting. You were talking about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, who obviously studied with Dr. Richard Bandler, who I've worked with, who developed the field of NLP, does. And if anybody's watching this, I mean, I sometimes say to them, look at Tony Robbins' morning questions. Very simple morning questions. I know you're nodding because you know them.
I've got them on my phone. Actually, let me just show you if I can get it.
Yeah. You
so
see?
Before I go to bed, this is just to back it up. Before I go to bed, and each night, so there's the morning questions, and there's the evening questions. I've got it bucked in. Love it. Absolutely love it. Game changer.
So what it is a game changer, and that's a brilliant way of describing it, because what you are doing is there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system.
Yes.
So the reticular activating system in the brain is the kind of place in the brain whereby if you are looking for a certain car or a certain type of flat or a certain piece of clothing, you will spot it everywhere because your
Yes.
reticular activating system is primed for it.
Yes.
Now, if your reticular activating system is primed for being lucky, you will look for things that are good. And those morning questions are just priming you. And they say things like, who do I love? Who loves me? What am I grateful for?
What are you happy about? What are you excited about? Why are you happy about that stuff? And then the evening questions: what did you achieve today? It sets you up just to be positive because you answer them. Yeah,
because you're giving your brain the positive stuff rather than the negative stuff. Now think of those questions. If you really want to screw yourself up, ask yourself, what is crap in my life?
Yeah.
Who hates me?
So
why is my life going down the toilet?
So,
you will find a reason.
So I'm on this 10-day mindset challenge, and it means that if you're thinking negative thoughts for past 30 seconds, you have to instantly stop it. And if you go past a minute, you have to start from scratch. So I'm up to day 3 because I only got as far. I got up to day 2 a couple of days ago. But anyway, it's great. I think it's absolutely you're spot on.
But it's simple as well. Those things are, I think all the best things are simple. That's why, people go, how do you know what kind of thing to do with, say, each of the guys on School of Hard Knocks? I go, experience and instinct.
Yeah.
I'm not going, page 53 is what I need to do. The other thing, sorry, I'm going to interrupt because you asked me a question and it just occurred to me that you said, how do people make themselves better and everything? The thing I think that people forget is rapport is one of the most important bits of it. And some people forget that getting on with people is the most important part of the sales process, of pitching, of presenting, and that's the bit that if you're going to work on anything, work on your rapport skills and your communication skills, because everything else will be easy.
So let me back this up. In 17 years of working in business, I've learned one thing. Business is personal and business is emotive. And anybody that tells you, like Mr. Godfather from the Godfather movie says it's all just business, that's bullshit. It's personal, it's rapport, it's based on relationships, and it's how you make them feel. And that's it. So I've backed that up 100%.
Well, you said the word relationships. There was an American study, which is very interesting, that said 85% of all your success in life, personal and business, is down to the quality of your relationships.
If you were to sit down, and so you're speaking to a young Paul, and he's 18, and you're probably drinking a tea or a coffee, I'm not quite sure what you would have drank then, and you've got that one piece of advice. What advice would you give?
Trust your instincts. Your instincts are always right. So, I mean, what happens, I think, especially when you're younger, and people do it all through their lives, is that they go to the conscious brain and talk themselves out of what they should have done and felt. And if I have a very simple thing now, which I've developed over years, but when I was 18, I would talk myself out of doing things sometimes, like, it's a bit sort of like dangerous, or it's not for me. And I got very good at it, sort of in my sort of mid-20s, of just going, it feels right, do it. Another thing I would say is actually at 18, listen a little bit more to people who know things, because the trouble with being a teenager is you think you know it all.
Yeah.
So listen a bit more. And I think that whole point of listening twice as much as you talk is crucial, that I should have learnt earlier. You know the old phrase my dad used to say, it, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, in that ratio for a reason.
I 100% agree. And we talk back to your friend who keeps his mouth shut because he doesn't know what to say. If I would have went back in my life, I would have kept my mouth shut and asked just really great open questions and stopped working so bloody hard.
Absolutely. Well, I think it is the confidence to shut up is what I would say to my 18-year-old self. Michael Caine, you know the actor Michael Caine?
I do, yeah.
He said that confident people speak slowly because they expect to be heard. People who are insecure speak quickly because they don't expect anybody to listen to what they're going to say at the end. So to my 18-year-old self, trust a little bit more that you can look confident and then people will see you as more confident.
Absolutely brilliant. I want to say thank you very much for being a guest on the show. I've learned so much, so thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure, Mark. Great talking to you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you again.
You've been listening to the What I Know Now podcast with Mark Kelly. To subscribe to the podcast, just enter WIKN into iTunes or any Android podcast of choice, or check out the website at www.wikn.co. I'd love to get your feedback, either positive or negative, about the episode and what action you're going to take. I look forward to seeing you next week, and remember, have an absolutely super day. Bye.